Welcome back to Not Funny Guys Presents Red Dwarf Rewatch. I'm your host, Dr. John, and we are now moving on in Series 7. We are on the back end already, and we have reached Episode 6, Beyond a Joke. Directed by Ed By, written by Robert Llewellyn and Doug Naylor. And you might know that name, Robert Llewellyn. That is Crichton. And it's very fitting that he actually gets help writing credit on this one. As you will see, this episode was released on 21st of February, 1997. So let's jump right into it with a summary. Searching for a new head for Crichton, which exploded during a build-up of negative emotions throughout a series of incidents, particularly circummed around Lister wanting ketchup for lobster, the crew encounter a rogue simulant on a deserted ship, one they actually already picked apart a little bit apparently. The simulant kidnaps Crichton and commissions one of his own droids, Abel, to fix him up. But Crichton and Abel discover that they are brothers, the same model in fact. Abel then helps Crichton escape. Crichton then discovers from Abel a disturbing secret about his creator, as we will see. So let's break this down. We open with Crichton setting up new china. Lister walks in and sees on him preparing a dish, something he found scuttling around the cargo bay. Lister immediately assumes it's Space Weevil, doesn't want it. It turns out to be lobster, because apparently they found 4 of them on the SS Centauri, a ship they recently found. This is not the only thing, of course, they found. And it's a special day. Lister doesn't remember, and Crichton has to remind him this is the day that they rescued him from the Nova 5. Chris walks in with Kat. They are loading up an AR program that they found upon the same ship. It's a copy of Jane Austen World. Chris is excited. She's getting Dave and Lister come and get involved, but it's utterly, once again, dismissive of everything Crichton's been doing. Rated, he was trying to surprise them. She just tells them to put him in the lobster in the oven and we'll eat it later. And Crichton is on the verge of blowing. He will blow. Lister, of course, is going to join them. Crichton then says, I spent 2 days preparing this meal, but Kat, Chris, and Dave go off to Jane's Austen World. She's trying to culture them. They're going to interact with characters now, Mrs. Bennett and her daughters. Once Chris introduces them, they go for a walk in the woods, and then they're going to have tea at the gazebo. This is when Crichton begins his strike. Now, of course, Kat and all the girls are very into him. He's complaining about the seam in his pants, though. Crichton, of course, joins the AR, comes in, and he starts taking out the characters. Blow darts, traps that snare them in the trees, then blow darts, and misses them with the log thing. He's basically doing the Ewoks from Return of the Jedi on the Stormtroopers. Kat seems to be having the very best time of all this. And they then get to the gazebo and finally notice that they're missing a few people, only for then Crichton to make sure they know and understand his displeasure. He shows up in a T-72 tank and puts it into the whole thing, and then declares that supper is ready. Now they're all at dinner. Everyone is complimenting him, trying to make him happy, except for Kat, who's the only honest one. He's like, are you eating the same meal? But it's when Lister asks for a little dollop of ketchup, not the red one, the brown one, that Crichton finally loses it and his head explodes all over them. They go to put his spare head on. In fact, apparently when they go through all of them, they boot him up, and every time he picks up with the ketchup comment and explodes. Like I said, they've gone through all the spare heads. They're not sure what's wrong. They saved his RAM chip, which has his personality, but they need a new head. So they're going to return to the SS Centauri to see if they can find a new head. Chris thinks it's a terrible idea and says, let's have a conversation with a intelligent person, and then proceeds to talk to her shadow in the wall. They still go back to the ship. They find a bunch of spare heads. They also find out that apparently they did not notice this last time. A simulant is squatting on the ship. They nearly avoid him, but only discover that the heads are missing the primers that make them work. So they need to go back and negotiate with the simulant. So they hate human. Kat and Chris dress as Gelfs, and Lister goes with them as a prisoner and sort of acting as a bargaining tool. They get the heads, they get the primers, they have a toast. A little sinister warning in there about never trusting a simulant, which they did find out to be true when they get back to Starbug. He apparently had a partner who ransacked their ship, has stolen Crichton and his RAM chip. Back on the simulant ship, we meet Abel, another 4000 series he's told to fix up Crichton. Abel does this, but he's also addicted to this ozone stuff that he sticks into like his little naval compartment. It rots your insides as a droid. So he fixes Crichton, and they come to realize that they're very closely connected. They both 4000 theories. So in a way, they're kind of brothers. Now, Abel is not all there. They have the same motherboard, like I said, they're brothers. But he's rather useless, and apparently the simulants picked him up after his crew died. It's only thanks to Chris's navigational idea, she decides to run away from them, so they can't catch the ship, they run away. Well, apparently fooling the simulants into thinking that they have a bomb, planted a bomb. But then it works, and they're chasing them now. They beam on board. The enemy crew wants to know about the bomb. There is no bomb. They're holding Crichton hostage. While he's doing this, simulant gives Crichton access to a hidden file. And apparently it's what caused Abel to corrupt himself the way he has. It's the truth about the 4000 series. But then Abel takes his head off and helps save the day. They send this Gelf and the simulant back to the ship, and they decide to run. Lister finds Crichton in the bunk, and apparently Crichton gives him the beans about apparently Professor Mammon, who created them, made the 4000 series as mockery for a lover who jilted her at the altar. And that all his negative emotions are on this nega drive thing, and it's all a reflection of this other real person who'd blow his head when he comes to that. And so basically Crichton thinks he's a joke, and Lister lets him know, you're beyond a joke now, you've evolved. Out of this time, the Centauri ship catches up to them. They run into an asteroid belt. They have to go silent, but unfortunately Abel's need for ozone leads him to sneak off into the cockpit, where he injects it and then falls on the console, activating the ship. They get hit. Crichton takes Abel in the back, kind of chews him out. They're still under attack when apparently Abel uses the escape pod, and they think he's going to betray them. Rather, though, he's going to be a hero. He uses the nega drive he projects it out of the escape pod onto the Centauri, and the simulant gets his all deeply messed up emotions from Crichton. He gets overwhelmed. He ends up firing on his own ship from the inside and blowing it up, and Abel's pod crashes on the moon. Crichton recovers Abel's body to basically perform last rites. Finally, we return to Jane Austen world in the AR again. They're enjoying a meal that Lister's choosing, which apparently is spicy curry. The program seemed to have no problem with it. They love it, but apparently Crichton tampered with it, I'm pretty sure. He hasn't gotten it right because the crew eat it and they're immediately spitting fire. And that's where we leave it. Next time, we're getting close to the end. We got 2 more episodes. We got an extra long season here. So next time we'll be doing Epideme. I'm assuming I'm saying that wrong, but who knows? But in the meantime, please like, subscribe, share, comment. Tongue-tied. Name of a great song. You go back and check it out. But in the meantime, like I said, write to us, tell us ideas, tell us things you like, things you dislike, things you want to see us improve. You can do that at notfunnyguys.offthereels@gmail.com. I'll make sure Casey reads it and pass it along to me, minus the cursing, or with the cursing. Who knows? He might even read it out loud over on our main podcast. So you can also write to us about. The main podcast is Not Funny Guys Presents Off the Reels, where we talk about movies. So over here on the YouTube channel, we mainly do television series. Over there, we do films. We're currently in the middle of going through with a Christmas movie that's going to be somewhere in the break. We'll be rolling into the new year doing the Jurassic Park, Jurassic World series. So come check those out. And also check out our back catalog of many other things we've done. So check those things out over there. If that's not your cup of tea, you can always check out Casey and Eric, the other Not Funny Guys, over on their Wrestling with the Horror of It All, where they talk about wrestling and horror movies. It's what it says on the tin. And then finally, if that's not your flavor, you can catch up on the ending of season 1. We're working at the end of season 1 right now. Not Funny Guys presents Thinking About Thinking. Dr. Kristen and I, our Not Funny Gal, talk about culture, AI, things that we do as teachers and researchers, things we're thinking about. Well, we're going to be wrapping up season 1 at episode 30, taking a bit of hiatus and coming back with season 2 starting in the new year. So we look forward to that as well. So until then, don't be a smeghead. Keep it not funny. I'll see you then. I'm getting closer, I think. I've been watching Rimmer for practice.